it could have been anywhere, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Trudy Glazer, her name is now Trudy, in the Hopple Street exit. She's like a singer that could have been anywhere, one of the greats, and she still lives in town, and I got to know her real well later on in my life. But yeah, the Hopple Street exit was a great example. Then there was another, gosh, I'm having trouble remembering the name, but there were a few rock bands around here back then that were really, really good. There's one girl that I can't think of her name right now. I wish I could. But I remember they played all the time, and then she sang so much that she kind of like lost her voice. I remember she had to lay off for a while, and I think she came back. But I wish I could remember her name. I just can't remember it offhand. Yeah, definitely.
So Dayton has a very murky kind of history as far as like geographical division between the city, just based on a bunch of different things. But was there any kind of divide based on like music genre? Were there certain parts of town that were allocated to like jazz and like to the east, rock to the north, anything like that?
No.
Or was it pretty much kind of a big...
We were one big happy family back then, and that's one thing I really miss.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there wasn't a divide, and that was the beauty of it. Everybody loved one another, and we didn't have that going on. You know, we were all together, and we all played music together, and everybody was mixed up. And I mean, as far as like I knew, like around town, there was all different kinds of music all over town.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons that I really got interested in this whole project, is the fact of music's really the one area where nothing, like it wasn't segregated. You can't really force a segregation, just music. Music is music. It doesn't really know race, gender, or anything. If you have the gift, you have the skill.
That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's been some separation that's been created over the years here. You know, you've got the Ohio Players, you know, they section themselves off into the funk, you know, they're the ones that, you know, are responsible for that. They made all that happen, and then it's sad, but there have been divisions that have been created that used to not be there. I mean, you know, Roy was black, I was white, his sister was black, Bobby was black, Emil, our bass player, he was white. I mean, the funny thing about, I'll tell you a funny story. We went on the road. It was me and Roy and Emil and his sister Betty to Iowa. We were going to play a week there at this hotel, and we drove. Well, Roy had his piano on the back. He always took his own piano with him. You know, he had a Kawai Baby Grand. So he had it in a trailer hitch on the back of his car. He had a real nice car. We were all in the car driving to Iowa. Well, we pulled in this diner for lunch. It was in the middle of the day, in the middle of nowhere. And before we get out of the car, and we're listening to, like, you know, Miles Davis and all this in the car all the way up there. It's like, this is great. Roy said, now wait a minute. He says, before we go in here, I want to do something. And we're going, we're all, you know, naive. I was totally naive. And so anyway, he puts his arm around me, and then he has Emil put his arm around Betty. Mm-hmm. And he wants to walk in the restaurant like this, you know, to do a shock factor thing, which I didn't know what he was doing. I thought, I just went along with it. We go in the restaurant, everybody's like, right? So it was just a big fun thing, you know. Roy had a great big laugh out of it, you know, and it produced the result he was looking for. Mm-hmm. You know, he knew a lot more about all that than I did, right? Yeah. I was just young and didn't know anything, but that was one thing that happened. But when we were back here, like at the Forum Club, that was our home club. Every night after we got done playing, there was usually everybody would go somewhere to somebody's house, and 9 times out of 10 it was Bobby Gordon's house. Mm-hmm. You know, we'd go to her house. It was a big party, you know. People were like partying just about every night, all night long, as far as what I can remember. And there was never any problem about color at all. I don't even remember thinking about it, really. Mm-hmm. You know, but I can say that I certainly have grown to think about it through the years of how it's increased in its like social, you know, separation and the awareness factor of like, you know, something's wrong. And I don't know. Yeah, no, back then it was one big happy family, and I think it was a lot better off that way. It was for me anyway. I never thought about anything like that.
So do you have any local airplay on any of the stations around here?
Back then,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Not that I know of.
Any more like today, or not today, but as of recently or later on in your career?
From back then,
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard any of it on the radio.
It's monsters. Like call up NPR.
Right. I don't even know where they. I mean, I guess there are recordings of it. So I don't even have any recordings myself of it. Yeah.
Did you guys have managers? How did you typically go about booking gigs?
There were booking agents here at the time. There were a few. That's what they did. Shane Taylor was one. There was a woman, Mary. I can't think of her last name. Jimmy Mays. He had a big band, and he was also a booker. Those were the three that were around here that actually did that for a living. With Roy, he was his own booker. He did his own booking, so I don't think he relied on anyone that I know of. And for myself, I was just too young to even know that was something that, you know, well, I mean, I knew these people, but it was something I never had to participate in. I was always just a drummer, you know, somebody would call me or else, and then I would go play a gig. I never had to get involved in the booking part of it.
Where was your favorite place to play, state-wise?
In what state?
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite like venue to play in?
In here in Dayton?
Anywhere.
Anywhere?
Anywhere. Both.
Gosh, back then during that time, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was here the whole time, so gosh, I guess the Forum Club. That's where it was a great, beautiful place to play. And then, like the places out on the base, beautiful places. And then the country clubs, wonderful, beautiful places to play. All of them. The small bars like the Green Derby, they were just small neighborhood bars. And the Turf Club, the Tropics, the Tropics was a real beautiful place to play. Memorial Hall was a wonderful place to play. The acoustics were great there. Well, they were great everywhere, really. Yeah, those were the places I can remember that were.
What about after your career in Dayton?
In California?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, it was so different out there.
Yeah.
Well, I started in LA,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to be a jazz drummer, and it was a totally different, it was like night and day from leaving here and going there. It was like a 360. It was like, it didn't matter. Your talent didn't really matter. It was who you knew and how much money you had. And I was very young and naive. I didn't know that that's what mattered, or that was what was going to matter when I got out there. I was just had my heart on my sleeve, and I just wanted to play. And I couldn't get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I found out that a lot of people were doing a lot of immoral things to get places, and I wasn't bound to do anything like that. I never would do anything like that, so I never could get anywhere. That's the way it worked. And I mean, I did some playing, nothing like what I expected that I was going to do out there. I got real disillusioned out there. At a certain point, I packed up my drums and put them away. I said, I can't do this anymore. And then I got into, meditation, and I got into a spiritual life with Guru Maharaji out there, the Divine Light mission. And so that's what I ended up really enjoying, and so from there, I came back here for a little while. Then I went to this Millennium Festival at the Houston Astrodome. It was in 1973. It was 12 Days and 12 Nights of Peace. That was the name of the festival. And we just lived in this Houston Astrodome waiting to receive knowledge from Guru Maharaji. And I finally got the knowledge. And after that, it was like, then it really didn't matter what you did.
Yeah.
It was like there was no more problems or no more anything. I mean, it was like bliss, and I lived like that for so long. It was just such a wonderful. I'm just so grateful.
Yeah.
You know that I know that I never had to worry about God or anything like that after that since, and I'm so grateful for that. And then I went back to California, and then I ended up in San Francisco. I had a girlfriend, Diane. We had received the knowledge together, and from LA, I said, I'm going to go to San Francisco. I'm going to try it up there. So we drove up there, and the first night I was up there, when I got up there, we had like $7 and something. I remember leaving LA with $7 and something, and I had my car and my drums. And we got up there, I said, where's the jazz club? You know, I asked somebody, where's the jazz club? But they said, well, there's a jazz club called the Sand Dunes. It's out in the avenues. I said, great. So I drove out there. And that night, Chet Baker had just gotten out of prison that day for heroin use. I guess it was heroin use. I don't know. I shouldn't say that because I don't know what it was, because I didn't talk to him about it. But he was there playing at the Sand Dunes, and I'm sitting at the bar, and I'm sitting right next to the music critic from the San Francisco Chronicle, which I had no idea. We're having this great conversation about music. He's a terrific person. And I ended up sitting in with Chet Baker on the drums that night, and I thought, this is where I'm going to stay. And so it was a completely different. San Francisco and LA are two completely different, you know.
Oh, they definitely still are.
Yeah.
100%.
And so I stayed there.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you play with anyone else in San Francisco?
Oh my gosh, I did. Yeah, after, you know, I think I was out in California a total of about 8 years before I finally met people that I could come together and play music with on a spiritual and same creative level. It wasn't jazz, it was punk. So I kept trying with the jazz, kept running into the same kind of difficulties with, you know, the people, you know, what they wanted. And so finally, this punk thing started happening around the city. This was the mid-'70s. And you could tell, you had the safety pins and the hairdos and all this and that. And I remember, like, I bought these glasses. They were shaped like diamonds, and they were red rimmed diamonds, just little ones. I had those, and I found this big safety pin on the sidewalk because I used to walk. I walked up the city every day. And I found this pin. I thought it was a sign. You know, this is a sign. So I had the pin on and these glasses, and I'm walking around San Francisco, and this woman saw me. Well, I didn't know this at the time, but she was a resident of this city. She was a great artist in the city, well known from there, all involved and connected to all the artists of San Francisco at that time, which there were a lot of really beautiful, creative people living there doing all kinds of things, furniture making, music, jewelry, dance, theater, just every type of art. And everybody was together. It wasn't like all this separation, you know, how like, well, you can't play your drums with the ballet because they don't do that. Because I tried to do that here when I came back after being in California. I wanted to play my drums with the ballet. And I remember going downtown and going up to the ballet, knocking on the door and asking them about it, and they acted like it was something they they couldn't believe that I had even asked this question. That's the kind of things I run into a lot. I don't know if it's here. It could very well be here. But anyway, out there, what happened was I ended up, this woman that had seen me on the street, I had this friend, and she asked me, she says, have you ever, she says, do you know Esmeralda? And I said, no, I don't know her. And she goes, well, you need to, because she's really good and you should meet her. And I said, sure, fine. And she goes, well, she's doing a performance down on Church Street at this church with the Angels of Light, which was a theater, an original theater company that was made up of artists from San Francisco. And I said, yeah, I'll go down and check it out. So I went there that night to see this performance. And at a certain point during the play, there was like a 2-story, it was like a Spanish theme. There was a 2-story house that they had constructed, like the set. She came up this ladder, and then she busted through this window upstairs, and her hair was like flaming red and real long, and she was like, came out of this window singing this torch song. And we were about the same age and everything, we were in our 20s. And I heard her sing, and I thought, man, she's as good as I am. That's what I thought, because that was a part of the problem I had. I was very talented, and I had trouble finding people my own age, my own race and everything that were as equally as good. And that's why I had trouble getting into the other kinds of music. But when I heard her, I thought, yeah, we could do something together. So I found out where she lived, and I went over to her house, and I talked to her about it. And she invited me over. She said, bring your drums and come over. So we made an appointment. I took my drums over to her studio, and I set them up. She played the piano, I played my drums, and then she said, yeah, I think you've got power. She goes, I think we could do something together. So we had this fantastic duo all during the punk new wave movement that happened in the middle to late 70s. And it was the original punk. I'm an original punk. There was it was like something that just emerged out of the energies of the universe, punk. And it was like all the people that were there at that time were the original punks. We never got credit. We never got recorded. We never got, anything done with our music, and but we were there for I'd say good 5 years. We played all around the town, and there were so many groups at that time, the Pink Section, there was the Dead Kennedys, there was Flipper from LA. There was so many groups that was all a part of that scene. And these different clubs we would play constantly around town, the Cafe Flore. Now we do have recordings of that. In fact, we got our music re-engineered and redistributed in 2012 from a fellow that went from Cleveland to San Francisco and loved the music so much that he actually took it upon himself to find these musicians and take their music. We had music on cassette tapes and reel-to-reel tapes, and he took all that and re-engineered it and created vinyl for us, and CDs and all this and that. And so that was something that was really nice. I mean, we didn't really make any money off of it, but we did get, I guess, I don't know, the satisfaction of somebody caring or doing something for us. But yeah, that was my moment of fame, or my claim to fame, as far as my trip out there and all that I wanted to do. And it lasted for maybe 4 or 5 years, and then after that, it was like that was it. It was over, and so it wasn't too long after that I came back here, and I've been back here ever since. And the whole thing about doing that, it's like I kind of split up my career. It's like I either never should have left here, or I never should have come back, because all the people and all the connections I had here when I left, by the time I came back, they were all either dead or gone or not involved in music anymore. And so, I came back to almost all people that I didn't know, that didn't know me. I didn't have a reputation here anymore, and so it was sort of like, I've never had like a satisfaction back here since I came back because of that. I did do a lot of playing back here over the years with I do write songs on the guitar, and I've had a lot of bands that I've made with my guitar and my songs. It's all original music, and I've done that ever since I've been back here. You get a group for a while, it happens for a while, then it ends, and then you do that over and over and over. I never did a lot of traveling from here, which I could have done. I guess it was just my own lack of desire to, spend my life on a bus or whatever. I just never really wanted to do that. And I probably could have done a lot more with my music. I still do play. I teach now. I've been teaching for the last 20 years. I'm down at Guitar Center now teaching, and then I teach in Fairborn. And I teach at Wittenberg University privately. But as far as the playing went with the jazz and the drumming, it's just something that I never got to fulfill. So it's been a very miserable realization for me in my life that I never, all that stuff that was going around in my head, all that playing that was going on in my head, I never got to really manifest, into a physical reality. That's been a disappointment for me in my life, and a bitterness. I'm a bit bitter about it. But
Well, that's the beauty of you teaching music, though, because you can just kind of pass it on to
I want to pass it
next
on.
generation.
It would be nice to get some drummers that really I could pass a lot. I have so much that I could pass on if I could just get some students that, I could do it with. Most of the time I get, just small children, and they're there for a little while and then they're gone. But yeah, it could be a lot. I really should be teaching at a college level is what I should be doing, because that's where I could be effective with what I know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to do that or not. I do teach at Wittenberg, but I've never had, I still have never had any drum students up there do that. Well, it's not really a jazz-based school. They do have a jazz band. It's a classical-oriented school. And I could pass on a lot more with the drums than what I'm able to do. I don't know what all I've gotten with that.
Yeah. So, did you ever develop any kind of like fan club or following at any points, like when you were in San Francisco?
Oh yeah, I think the No Mercy had a great following. And all my people, that's where they're at. All my spirit family, all the people that I met and made my connections with as an adult in my life, that's where they all are. That was the misfortunate thing about me coming back here, because I left everything where people did love me. People adored me out there and were constantly wanting me to do things. And I left all that and came back here basically just because of, lack of funds. And so it had a big effect on, what I did with my life. Big effect.
So, you say that you've ever had like a high point of your entire career. What would you say was your highest high point?
I think, when I was playing with Roy, that's when I developed my playing skills to the highest level. And that's why I left here and went to California. And then when I finally met, Esmeralda, and we did No Mercy together, that was definitely another high point, because I got to, manifest my talents with that music, which was, it was just drums and voice, so there was a real big, statement that I got to make as a drummer in that group. It was sort of known as the drumming and the vocal. After that, I can't say that there's been anything, that's sticking out in my mind about, wow, that was really great. I always get a big thrill. I love performing, so I always get joy in everything when I do it. So pretty much every time that I have performed, it's been a joyful experience. Yeah, I got to say that, because it's a gift, and when you exercise your gift, it feels great, And when I do play out, people love it. I haven't been doing much of it lately because I'm getting older, you know. But I did play out last night actually for the first time that I played out in quite a long time. I went back, played at an open mic down at the South Park Tavern. Some of my songs that I still write, you know, it's something that I do. So I played a few songs down there, and the people that I've met at Guitar Center have been really. It's been like opening a new window for me, you know, new people. They're wonderful people, beautiful people down there that I've met, and they're all into music. Most of them are musicians themselves, and so we had a big group of us that went down there last night and played, and it was a lot of fun. But it's just that Dayton is now. I don't know. I guess there's probably people here that are real involved in music and doing well here and are happy about it. For me, I don't see that here. The whole jazz thing here, I'm not connected with the jazz musicians that are here. I wasn't welcomed into the jazz community here when I came back from California. In fact, I was kind of snubbed and pushed away from it for reasons I don't really understand, but it was a very hurtful period of time for me to be snubbed by the other younger, you know, musicians in jazz, the drummers that were here and coming up. So I went through a lot of, you know, I got my feelings hurt, really, and I kind of like stepped back and I just stepped away from it. So I don't know. There's not a lot of jazz here anyway to go. There's that one jam session down at Jazz Central. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I used to go down there religiously every Sunday. This is during probably the 80s, 90s or whatever. Every single Sunday I'd go down there. I knew like, you know, Miles, he was the drummer. And then the, you know, organ player that was so great that was down there, he passed away. He used to run the show down there, and it was always fun sitting in with him. He was a really energetic player that you could really, you know, smoke some music with. But it was the same kind of thing happened down there. It's like, yeah, I could go down there and spend my whole Sunday sitting waiting to play a song or two. You know, but nothing ever came of it. I never could, of all the people I ever met down there, I never was able to form a group. Like if I got a gig, you know, if I got a gig, I could, and I said, I want you to play with me, they'll come out and play with you if you pay them. They'll come out and play a gig with you if you pay them what they want. But I never met people that I was like, that wanted to like be in a group together and work on something because they loved it and we're going to go out, we're going to, you know, be a group and we're going to play because we're great and we want to do this thing. I never met people here like that in jazz since I came back. And for me, it's just like, I almost feel like I would have to go somewhere else if I really wanted to try to involve myself in playing jazz. I mean, I've been here so long now, I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I stayed here for a long time because of my mom. I took care of my mom for, you know, a good 20 years. And so I had to do that. And now that my mom passed away, which has been 2017, she passed away, I'm not sure, you know, I'm still kind of wondering where will I end up, really. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
It's got a kind of a travel itch coming on.
I do have a travel itch.
That's what I'm dealing with right now as well. So Dayton really has a pretty vibrant music history. Do you think it's kind of missing something these days? I mean, obviously we don't really have the music clubs anymore, and really, if you want to, like, there is live music everywhere, but you really have to know where to look for it. What would you say is missing most from the Dayton music scene right now?
I know there's new clubs that I haven't really gone to, like Jimmy's Ladder is one of the newer clubs. But the clubs that I have been to, when I've gone out to listen to music, it's just the environments of the clubs. Everybody stands. There's no comfortable seating. You can't sit down and have a conversation. The music doesn't start till 10, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, music should be happening all day long, in my opinion.